Hi there.
Hi, good morning.
I'm afraid it looks like it's a very quiet one today. I've had lots of messages from people saying they can't attend.
Oh, no worries. This is actually my first time attending, so.
Okay, well, what was your interest?
Yeah, so I work at Google. I'm a CI/CD developer advocate. So I primarily focus on Tekton, Scaffold, Cloud Build, Cloud Deploy, all that stuff. And Tekton's always been a passion of mine, and I want to get more involved in the CDF. So this is my first attempt at joining.
Okay, cool. Have you seen the best practices work that we've been doing on the website?
I looked through the meeting notes briefly, but I'm not super familiar now.
Okay. Have you seen bestpractices.cd.foundation?
Um, is that the like GitHub repo, or is that?
That's our actual documentation site. So that's what this special interest group is about. Basically, is maintaining
Yeah, no, this is great. Yeah, I mean, I would love to contribute to this. This is awesome.
Cool. So
Yeah.
let me. Probably the best way is for me to just give you an overview of what we've been up to.
Okay.
Let me just get to a point where I can share that.
Yeah, I wonder if it might be helpful on the SIG best practices repo in GitHub to have a link to bestpractices.cd.foundation.
Yeah, so there should be links on. There's a couple of different routes into this. There should be links in all of them.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Maybe it's in the proposal. Yeah, I don't see it on GitHub, but maybe it's in the notes or something.
Okay. Unfortunately, Chrome has decided it doesn't want to let me screen share.
Okay, no worries.
Let me try it again from a different app to see if that works any better. It's not working either. It did the classic, you just enter into the meeting, Zoom updates itself, and then everything stops working.
If you need to like quit and rejoin, that's totally fine.
I think I've got a way around it. If I can find, there it is. There we go.
Great. Awesome.
So this is what we're working on, and the idea really is just to try and communicate if you like, the sort of design patterns, the ways of thinking about continuous delivery, because most people come to continuous delivery because they've adopted a tool or are exploring one tool or another.
Right.
And so there's a lot of documentation on how to use the tool, but very little about why you're using the tool in the first place.
Right.
So the intent here really is to understand the context and how to think about working in a continuous delivery methodology, and then working down into the detail of how to do things with particular tools or with particular approaches.
Right.
So yeah, feel free to jump in if you want more detail on specific things. The learn section is where we cover the general bits and pieces.
Mhm.
And so this is about approaching this as if you know nothing about it whatsoever, and trying to explain what's the problem it's actually trying to solve. So fundamentally, we see a very common misunderstanding when people are adopting continuous delivery, because they're either coming at it from an organization that has never done it before, or they're coming at it typically from within an organization that does it all the time. And
Right.
so everyone is doing it, but nobody is talking about why they're doing it, because those decisions were 5-10 years ago, and everyone has kind of moved on from that piece of thinking.
Right.
So it's very difficult for people who join an organization to really understand why they're doing things this way and how that should shape the way they think about building their solutions. So what we try and communicate here is the fact that this is actually not an engineering methodology. This is a business methodology.
Right. And a cultural one.
Yeah. So it's that whole idea of what you're trying to do is that iterative lean software delivery process where you're doing product discovery, and so you need to be doing things in production environments with real customers.
Right.
And that means that you're having to deliver stuff on very short cadences into real environments with all the challenges of putting things into real environments.
Right.
But you're delivering lots of small iterative increments to what you're building.
Right.
And so the rest of the methodology is therefore, how can you get as efficient as possible at delivering in that way? So that's what we cover off in here really, and covering off how to do it wrong in bad and dangerous ways, and just getting people to start to have the thought processes to say, well, what is the important thing here? Is it the tool? Is it the process? Is it actually the structure of the business?
Right.
And also to get people to understand that this is not just software delivery. This is ML assets and all your AI process can also be managed in the same way, and what the risks and challenges are in that space. And in fact, in our next meeting, we'll be progressing some work that we're doing on mainframes and continuous delivery.
Very cool.
So there are lots of application areas that sit outside the classic containerization model.
Right.
And then we look, as you say, at the cultural challenge. And this, I think, is one of the biggest failure points for new organizations, is that people try to adopt continuous delivery at an engineering level, but they don't get buy-in at a business level for the business change that's necessary in order to succeed overall. And so
Right.
you end up with people trying to deliver stuff on a daily cadence, but the commercial sign off to go into production is a 6 to 8 week process.
Right.
So that gets messy really quickly, and lots of people get very angry and frustrated. And we see a lot of people saying that continuous delivery doesn't work because they try to treat it as a software tool and not a business methodology.
Right. Just adopting the tool is not enough. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So then the rest of this section really is more of the detail of what problems are you trying to solve with this methodology, what issues exist in each of these spaces, what sort of best practices there are in this area, and then also some more subtle things like software supply chain issues. And that obviously we see a lot of focus now on software supply chain security issues,
right?
But actually there's at least 4 aspects to managing a supply chain, because you've also got licensing and how those licenses flow through you and potentially onto your customers, life cycle management for all the components, and regulatory compliance, how you're able to prove that your whole supply chain is compliant.
Right.
I mean, that being a classic one for supplying to the US government.
Right.
You now have to attest that you have full compliance over all of your supply chain.
Right.
But there's very few organizations that actually have the capability to deliver on that. And then we look at things like configuration management and how that falls into scope. Then one of the pieces that we are looking to expand out on is the assessment of your current state, if you like. So as an organization, what are you capable of doing right now, and how do you know where you are on day one versus where you want to be. So we've got a few things in here, but we want to try and expand this section and help people to be able to really determine what their initial capabilities are compared to the best in the field, if you like.
Right, and taking an assessment of what they have now and what can be salvaged and what should be modified.
Yeah,
kind of in an audit, so to speak.
Yeah, and then we've also got a section which is unpopulated at the moment, which is domain specific stuff. So this is where you get into real niche application problems where there are additional challenges we need to flesh out. So here
I might be able to, yeah, I might be able to help with some of this. I work closely with the Dora team, so that might be something I could help expand on.
that would be cool. And we're looking for people who had experience of high performance computing or
Yeah.
large ML applications where there's a lot of niche challenges where you're trying to distribute assets to very large numbers of nodes, or trying to solve problems that are extremely complex.
Right.
So that's basically the learn section. Then the other piece that we're doing a lot of work on right now is the reference architecture. So this is the idea of looking at this from a very high level perspective. How do you manage the business change and then the technology change involved in adopting continuous delivery as an end-to-end methodology? So this one, I don't know if you've done any TOGAF stuff previously.
I don't think so.
So TOGAF is it's an architecture framework, and it's typically used on the large enterprise projects, DoD projects, things like that, where you're going to have to spend 100 million on doing a business and technology change, and you want to understand what the risks associated are, what you've got right now, what you need to have, what the gaps are, and therefore what should you actually be building. But from an architectural perspective, so not really at a requirements level, but more at the do we have the infrastructure that can cope with this? Do we have the resources to be able to build this? Do we know what the processes and behaviors are? But what that model really brings is this thing called views and viewpoints. And so this is the challenge that on most large pieces of work, everyone involved can only see a small part of the problem, and they all see it from a slightly different perspective.
This is very cool.
What you need to be able to do is say, well, okay, what does the CEO think? Well, their viewpoint is that they're responsible for scaling the company. They're all about driving profitability. And so they're shaping the business model, the target operating model of that company.
Right.
So what their view is, so this is where they're standing, and this is what they're seeing from that viewpoint.
Yeah. So it's like persona.
Yeah. It is very much like that persona model. But what you can do with this is you can be very clear about where they're standing and what they can see from there, and therefore get an understanding of what their key concerns are, and then off the back of that you can easily categorize what the value add that they would see from this methodology. Right. So if you were pitching continuous delivery to a CEO, these would be the talking points.
Right.
And it's that fact about being able to get from the idea for a product to having that product testable with real customers in the shortest possible time. But then if you look at some of the other positions, head of legal, is there to
Right.
ensure compliance. So their view is that they need ways to ensure that the organization is complying with its statutory requirements. They must be able to run internal audits and compliance checks, and they need to manage any incidents that arise.
Right.
So here, in order to get this individual to agree to a continuous delivery process, you're going to have to show them tooling that gives them automated compliance processes.
Right.
So it makes their life easier, and that can always provide them with an audit trail and the potential for forensic data management on everything that's happened.
Right.
Because otherwise, they're going to go, what, you want to put production stuff into production every 4 hours without anybody inspecting it? No way.
Right. Yeah.
So this is when you start to look at this stuff that you see the real business challenges, which is, most organizations just cannot do continuous delivery because they have whole departments whose job it is to prevent you from doing that.
Right.
And then if you look at the engineering perspective, which we all feel that we're familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
you start to see the focus on the DORA metrics and what that means for software delivery. But what's important here is that we often find that at a development level, the engineers are blind to most of the problems that continuous delivery is actually designed to solve. So we get people who are very focused on DORA, but are unaware of all of these other opinions that are key to the process. So by developing this this model, you can help everyone involved to understand each other's viewpoints and what each individual's concerns are, and then show how the methodology addresses all of those concerns in a way that benefits everybody.
Right. Totally. And then also, like, I don't know if this is mentioned anywhere, but like, doing a proof of concept and proving the reliability of a pipeline and like building confidence in it before, deciding to deploy every 4 hours,
Yeah. And then this model sort of goes on to look at drivers and constraints. So, why would you want to do continuous delivery? What things are going to get in the way of succeeding with that? And then we move on to capabilities, which is, what have you can do right now that's beneficial versus what gaps are there. And then we have if you like, an assessment of readiness, so that you understand, are you safe to push the button on this and start working with it? Or do you need more skills? Do you need more tools? It's all about building confidence in adopting and scaling this methodology. Now, this piece, we've really only done the first section of the reference architecture. What we need to move on to next is what would be thought of as business architectures and technology architectures. So that's where we're trying to engage with people who've gone through this process,
Right.
and excuse me, get them to share what their experiences were. And then a community section where we expect to add in other projects that are associated with this. So here we have supply chain maturity metrics, which is another CDF piece of work, which is helping people to understand how to measure their maturity within their supply chain management. So again, there's Google and Tecton contributions going on in here, and there's quite a lot of interesting stuff in this area. This whole section we'll continue to add more pieces to over time. We'll start to bring some of the CDF tool projects into here. So with Tecton and Jenkins X, we'll get them to contribute white papers on best practices for using that tooling in a continuous delivery context. And then finally, we have our resources section, which is a lot of sort of peripheral bits that relate to continuous delivery, and I mean, terminology is an interesting one, because getting everyone to agree what half of these phrases actually mean is a difficult one, because the whole continuous delivery versus continuous deployment, about 50% of people have the meanings of those reversed. So we define continuous delivery as the overarching process of taking a product from an idea to something that's running in front of a customer, and continuous deployment as the bit where you're taking your tested code that's packaged and actually shipping it into a production environment.
Interesting. Yeah, I've seen multiple definitions of that. Some people say that it's like, oh, you're continuously deploying to a test environment. And some people are saying, it describes a methodology where you're going directly to production after testing and everything. So yeah, definitely a lot of different perspectives there.
So that's a big mess. And then also you've got the fact that you've got multiple tools from multiple vendors, often with completely different terminology for the same types of events and processes. So we actually try and map, what's an activity or a step or a process in one tool or another, and which of those things map to each. So again, it's all just little useful resources to help people understand what they need to be thinking about. And then the other big CDF project is CD events, which is an abstraction layer across continuous delivery. So it's just a standard terminology and set of APIs for managing all of the problems that occur in continuous delivery environment, and then a big effort to try and get everyone in the tool space to adopt and integrate with this, so that you can use multiple tools in a consistent way to manage your overall environment.
It's very exciting work.
So I hope that gives you an overview of what it is that we are actually trying to achieve here. And you're more than welcome to dive in anywhere and start contributing.
What does that process look like? Should I just fork the I'm assuming the repo has.
So you'll see there's a best practices site repo.
Okay.
So if you want to add stuff to the documentation set, then yeah, just submit PRs on that, and we'll review. And you know, we're very open to contributions. So you'll quickly pick up the sort of style that we're using,
Okay.
and typically the style is fairly similar to Google standards.
Okay.
So and the whole thing is doxy. So
yeah, great. Okay, cool. So yeah, you know, I'll look through it, and if I find anything, I'll fork and submit pull requests. And then do people in this SIG normally join every meeting? Like, what's the cadence? How do things normally run here?
well, we treat this as a fairly offline process anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, you're more than welcome to join the Slack or to message me,
Okay.
and just, you know, get involved in stuff, and or start stuff off if you've got something that you think you specifically want to contribute. And then the meetings are generally just to help introduce people, like we've been doing today, and to cover off specific activities where we need, you know, half a dozen people all contributing on a larger piece of work. And then so we'll sometimes have little phases where there'll be 3 or 4 meetings where we're all focused on getting something out the door, and then it goes back to being quiet again, like it is at the moment.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for the tour through all the documentation. It really helped me get a sense of the tone and, you know, what we're aiming for. I really like the high level overview of helping people understand how to properly implement this. So, yeah, I mean, I'll look through and see where I can contribute, maybe with some Dora stuff. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, great.
Great.
Is there anything
Good
else
to
I
be
should
able.
know, or?
No, we're a very friendly group. We don't bite.
Okay.
And you'll find that people come and go over time. So typically what will happen is that somebody will come along and have a particular viewpoint that they think is missing. So they'll contribute a lot of detail on that viewpoint. So you know, and there's no requirement that you turn up every time. You know, just drop in and out.
Yeah.
And we're very open to feedback. Some things are as they are because we've spent a year arguing over what we want to communicate, and some things are just there because they got thrown in and can be tidied up and, you know, should be refined.
Right.
But there's no sacred cows, so don't be afraid to say, you know, what the hell are you thinking putting this in? Because, you know, we're always open to making sure that we've got lots of eyeballs on this and that we're getting a very diverse set of experiences adding into this process.
Totally. Okay, great. And then for meeting notes, do I need to log that I was here, or how does that work?
Yeah, have you got the link to the I can stick that in the chat. Hang on a sec.
HackMD. Oh, cool. So is this just like a shared document?
Yeah. So if you can log in, you should be able to.
Yeah, let me create an account. Okay, let's see. Okay, great.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Thanks so much again. Nice to meet you. And I should be around.
Cool. Yeah, you too. Take care.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
close the meeting now, I think. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Bye-bye.